Bam. Well, I guess good evening from the tiny house, and tonight you join me for tonight's little fireside chats. In today's episode I thought I'd talk about the challenges of building a tiny house in the UK. Oh, it's quite warm now. Yes, I'll begin at the beginning. Makes sense. So I think one of the hardest challenges with building a tiny house is probably starting the project, because I know I kept on putting it off, and for me to really get around to actually doing it was the fact that I made myself accountable by the YouTube channel, announcing it on that I was building the tiny house. And also another thing that started it off was I was trying to get the scale mapped out physically, just to see how big it would be. So I at work in the woods, I measured it out, and I got some stakes, some bamboo poles, got some rope, and I roped out how big it would be. And I started to visualize where I'd put the kitchen, the stove, the bathroom, and things like that. And I was like, okay, cool. So then I got it mapped out in my head, and I left it in the woods. Then a few days later, my boss was like, what's that weird kind of roped off area in the woods? And I was like, I'm building a tiny house. And that's when I actually kind of put my foot down about it and actually was like right, this is happening. So once that happened, I spent a while pinpointing how to actually get a trailer. I looked at buying one second hand. I put a quote in for a trailer company, which they quoted me £6,000, and I was like, no thank you. And then I found a company, I think it's Tiny Eco Homes, and they import trailers from the Netherlands. So I put down a deposit, and that's how I came to start my tiny house journey. So I think that was one of the hardest things to do, was starting it. I think the second hardest thing will be actually finding a location, just because the planning laws in England are not very encouraging for, I guess, people who want to live off-grid living. So I haven't crossed that bridge yet, but I think that will be a hard obstacle to overcome. And I think the other challenges will be, once I've actually finished off the kitchen, the bathroom, the breakfast bar, the stairs, we'll be actually kitting it out and doing all the silly little minor jobs, like I guess the indoor window frames, finish off all the finer details, like upholstering it, doing all the cushions. Luckily my sister's quite into that, so I'll have her input. I don't have many ideas at the minute, apart from I like the colour green. There might be a bit of a blue theme downstairs because of the stained glass window, but yeah, I think doing all the finer details will be interesting. Of course, the build itself hasn't been without its challenges so far, and I have learnt so much in terms of using the tool. The first time I used the circular saw, and I think my boss just gave me it, and he was like, right, this button does this, that does that, don't put your fingers here and you should be okay. And off I went. And I think there's a video of me first using it, and I'm a bit obviously apprehensive about using it because A, I don't want to break it, and B, it's dangerous if you use it incorrectly. But now I kind of I'm very comfortable with the circular saw, and it's probably one of my favourite tools. Something else I've also had to learn is letting go of perfection. When I originally started cladding the back, I did start countersinking the holes so it wouldn't split the wood. And so the back of the tiny house, which is probably the least side anyone's going to see, that's the neatest side, and the side I did first. But the rest of the tiny house, and also the interior cladding, I didn't countersink, just because you get to a point where you're just doing that much cladding, as get it on, and you don't really care too much. So yeah, it's still a bit rough around the edges, but it's very rustic and one of a kind. A hodgepodge job, but it'll work for me. I think one of the things I've enjoyed is seeing it all come together. I will have had this tiny house, it'll be 2 years in January, I got it in January. Maybe it should be, or maybe it was March. But yeah, as I've mentioned in previous videos, this isn't not my original design. Before I got the trailer, I did design it how I wanted it all to be, but then my trailer got delayed by about a few months, and they said I could either wait for it, or they had this trailer with the frame already built on the top floor, already put in, and they'd throw in a few windows, and for a bit extra, they said I could have that, and I was like, okay. They're like, great, it's coming in a week. So I had to quickly get my act together, but considering the price of wood now, and I think if I'd done the structure myself, it probably would take me several more years to get this tiny house done, and working out all the angles would have been quite insane. So yeah, I'm quite glad that happened. I need to find somewhere to put the tiny house. I kind of swing between what I'm going to do, where I'm going to put it, what I'm going to do with it. But I know I'd love to get this tiny house somewhere else, just so when I look out the window, I'm not looking into the side of a garage, or I'm not looking into like a wall of mud behind me. This year I haven't got done as much as I would have liked to have gotten done, but it's the way it is. By next spring I would love to, or next summer, I would love to definitely at least have the stairs done, have the kitchen unit made, have the breakfast bar fitted, have the bathroom panels in, finish off the electrics and the plumbing, but I'd love to have all those in place. And there's a few other tiny house dwellers in the UK, either people getting tiny houses built for them and to live in them, or people doing it themselves. Some are a bit faster than me, but I guess it's not a race. I do look forward to living in here. It's gonna be amazing.